Hey there, what's going on? Welcome to project 29 of 100 web project series. My name is Basir Payenda, and this video revolves around creating some cool hover effect for links using only HTML and CSS. Alright, so I'm gonna hover my mouse on each of these links individually so you can see it yourself how these are gonna look like. Okay, so this is the hover effect number 1, the animation, and hover effect number 2. Number 3, just kind of cool, it stretches out from the center all the way to the left and right side. And we got hover effect number 4. It's number 5 with a border around that. And then hover effect number 6, basically the opposite of this. This is horizontally, and it's going to go vertically. And a hover effect number 7, number 8, and number 9. Just taking a little bit more time. It's like, I believe, 1.5 seconds. And hover effect number 10. Alright, so this is what we're going to be building throughout this entire video, so stick with me till the end. Here at the left side, I already have my code data open, so I'm going to start off everything from scratch, creating the index.html file, and then followed by that I'm going to create the style.css file as well. And then within the index.html file, I'm just going to go and create the HTML boilerplate, and obviously I'm going to first link this to style.css here, and change the title of that to be hover effects. There we go, and down below right here the anchor tag with the class of hover effect -1 right here. It's not going to go anywhere. A did link and then hover effect 1, and then I'm going to run this in live server to see how's that going to look like. Yeah, very simple. Hover effect 1, and in style.css we're going to style this a little bit. We're going to get the before, and similarly we're going to get the after, and set this box sizing to be border box. So basically this is going to make sure that the padding and the border is included to an elements to the width and height. Okay, let me change this to CSS as well. And then for the body, I'm going to just set a margin to 0, and a font family of that to be Montserrat. So I already have this installed on my machine, but if you don't have, just make sure to go to Google Fonts and just put their CDN or import whatever. And then Apple system, and that's going to be the fallback font family. Why is that gone from there? Montserrat, there we go. Make sure the spelling is correct. And then down below right here, I'm gonna also display this as flex, and the flex direction I'm gonna set this to be column. There we go. And let's just also justify content to the center and align items to the center. Alright, let's just add a little bit of the padding for the body as well, so let's make it like 2 rem. Alright, so then down below right here, some global styling for the links here as well, and then here I'm gonna set this text decoration to be none right there. I'm gonna bump up his font size to something like 2.5 rem. There we go, and change his color to be kind of this darkish color right here. Alright, so I'm gonna comment this out here, hover effect number 1, and then down below you're gonna get that class hover effect -1. If I go back into index.html, you can see the name of the class is hover effect -1, and then here we target that and set its position to be relative. It's relative, actually relative. There we go. And then for the hover effect number 1, we're gonna get this before, so it'll mean set this content to be just kind of nothing for now. And then let's just also position this as absolute. From the left, set that to 0, and from the bottom, set that to 0 as well. We're gonna also add a background color for that. So for now, we're gonna add this dark background color for that. And similarly, we need to specify a height and weight for that, so it's gonna show up in the screen. Okay, there we go. You can see this showing up right there. And then also I need to add a little bit of the padding between them as well. So it's like 0.5 rem and 0. There we go. It's kind of looking cool. And then down below right here, I'm gonna also set its transform, and then translate X of this one to a negative 100%, like that. Alright, let's shift it on the X-axis like a negative 100%. Then down below right here, I'm gonna get and say that on hover I want to get the before and transform, then translate X to be 0. So basically what this gonna do is that it's gonna translate and shift from this position to this position right here. Let's also make sure that we're gonna add a transition for that as well. It's gonna be like 500 millisecond, is in and out. There we go. So now if I hover on that, you can see that this is just shifting its position from a negative 100% to a 0, like so. And then also right here, I'm gonna display this as inline block and set the overflow of that to be hidden. There we go. So this is kind of looking cool, and you can probably see that in your screen. We have a dot right here. Let me just zoom this in a little bit. come on. Okay, so let's just zoom that. Oh, it's gone. But here in 100% I can see a very small dot right there, so if you want to get rid of that, just make sure to bump this up to a negative, like negative 105%, so there's a little bit more space. There we go. So we created the hover effect number 1, and then we're gonna also create this opposite two right here. So I'm just gonna select both of these, this for the hover effect number 2, and then I'm just gonna duplicate this one down below right here. Okay, so let's just also collapse these as well, and this is for the hover effect number 2. Alright, so you might be saying that you're repeating yourself, the code is not right, you're a lot of redundant code and so forth, but for sake of this tutorial and simplicity, and just to focus on the main logic of the tutorial, I'm just gonna keep it like this. Okay, so whenever you are referring back to this in the future, it's much easier for you when you see things are not cluttered and mixed up together. Okay, so this is for hover effect number 2, so just -2, and then just we need to change this back to a negative 105%. If I hover on this, this should be basically like the one above into there as well. All right, let's just add a little bit of the margin. I'm gonna go with 2 rem and 0, so there's just a little bit of spacing between these two. Okay, so then this one, as I said earlier, this is gonna go from the opposite direction of the right side to the left side. So that's basically very simple. All you have to do is to change this to be a positive 105%, and then change this one to right. There we go. So now if I hover on that, you can see this is how it is going to look like. Alright, so we just created the hover effect number 1 and the hover effect number 2. But before proceeding further, there's one more thing I would like to say, that you can do this actually without the transform and translate X. So this is the alternative approach. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of that as well, and then set this transition to be for the width now, and then whenever we are hovering on that, I'm going to set its width to be like 100%. Okay, so now if I hover on that back again, you can see basically we achieved the same result as we did before. But right now we can live without overflow heading, and if I hover on that, this is kind of a little bit more simpler than the one right there, but it's paid to know that you have these two alternatives. Okay, whatever you choose, you can add it. Okay, so then we're gonna deal with the hover effect number 3, which is gonna stretch up all the way from the center all the way to the left and right side. And so I'm just gonna duplicate it down below right here and call this to be hover effect number 3. And then right here, basically I'm not gonna duplicate anything now. Hover effect number 3. And then down below right here, we're gonna get that class number 3 and set its position to be relative. Okay, and then for the hover effect number 3, get the before pseudo element of that, and the content, set that to be like empty or just nothing for now. And right here, I'm gonna set its position to be absolute. And then also from the left, let's set this to a 50%, and then I'm also going to transform and translate X this one to a negative 50%. So what this line of code is going to do is it's going to shift its position to half of its own weight to the left side. Okay, so that's what this is going to do, and I also need to specify that from the bottom it is 0. There we go. And then let's just also don't forget to add a height for this 2 pixel, and also a width of 100%, and similarly a background color as we did for the one before into there. And then hover effect number 3, so whenever we are hovering on that, we want to get the before, and basically right here, so now you can see the line is straight up from the center all the way to the left and right side. So the way we can achieve that effect is using a scale. So I'm going to set its scale to 0, but whenever we are hovering on that, we need to just set its scale back to 1. Alright, so let's save that and then hover on that. Okay, what's happening? Yeah, we just need to add a little bit of the transition as well. For the transform right here, it's going to be like, again, 500 milliseconds in and out. There we go. So now if I hover on that back again, you can see that it stretches all the way from the center to the left and right side. And similarly for the hover effect number 2, number 1. And there we go. Alright, so we achieved this up until this point. Let's just first add the padding 0.5 rem and 0, so there's just a little bit of space between these. Okay, so now it's the time for the fourth hover effect, which is this one. It's kind of cool again. So for that, in order to achieve that, I'm gonna go back into here again and duplicate this one down below right here, and then set this one to hover effect number 4 like that. And then for the data hover, I'm just again specify the content of that to be hover effect number 4. There we go. So just make sure that the text of this anchor tag right here is just identical to the one that we have right there, because this is going to serve as a replacement for this one. Whenever we are hovering with change of a color, this one is going to be green. You'll see that in a little bit. What do I mean by that? Alright, so then down below right here, it's going to be for the hover effect number 4, and then again same as usual, we're going to get that hover effect number 4 right here. We're going to position this one as relative to, and then display this as inline block, let's say. And down below for the hover effect number 4, we're going to get the before element. I'm going to set this content for the attribute indeed, and data dash hover. Alright, so let's explain this att and data hover, what's happening right here. So this att stands for attribute, so it's basically going to grab the attribute of the hover effect number 4 right here, which is the data hover. And if I go back into here, you can see one of its attributes, data hover, which has this value right here. Okay, and you saw that whenever we added it, this hover effect number 4, this one right here, and then if I just change this color, you'll instantly notice that which is which. Okay, so that was this one right here. So hover effect number 4, this is basically the before element, and what we want to do right now is to put this one on top of this text right here. So for that, first of all, I need to position this as absolute. From the top, set that to 0, and then again from the left, set that to 0 as well. And now you can see this this the before element, this one is on top of the black color one there. Alright, so in order to achieve that effect, we need to first of all specify its weight. So for now, I'm going to just say it is 30%. You can see the text is wrapping here, so I'm going to simply say white space to no wrap. So now we can see the text is not wrapping, but it is overflowing. Okay, so right here I can set the overflow to hidden. There we go. So now you can see that only 30% of this text is loaded right here. And then down below right here, I'm gonna again get that hover effect number 4. So we can say on hover, we're gonna get this P4, and then I just want to increase its weight to be like 100%. Again, I'm just gonna get rid of that. And then down below right here, I'm gonna set a transition for the width. It's gonna be 500 millisecond, in and out. There we go. So then if I just hover on that back again, you can see this is how it is gonna look like. All right, so this is it. And then now for the hover effect number 5, which is kind of cool one. So in order to achieve this one here as well, we need to just go back into index.html, and then down below right here, I'm gonna again create another anchor tag with the hover effect number 5, and then there we go. And similar to this one, you can see that if I just go back right here, you can see that the text is changing along with this box disappearing around that too. So that's basically like this one, effect number 4. Okay, so again, I'm gonna add that hover effect, data hover, and call this to be hover effect number 5. And down below right here, I'm gonna create an span and hover effect number 5. There we go. All right, so you get to know that why I created and wrap all of these text within this span right here. And then back into style.css, again, I'm gonna say hover effect number 5. Again, let's just get that hover effect number 5 again. I'm gonna position this as relative, and then down below right here, for the hover effect number 5, we're gonna get this B4 and set its content to be just nothing for now. And then also we need to specify a height of 100% for this one. Indeed, I need to position this as absolute first. From the top, set that to 0, and then again from the left, let's just set that to 0 back again. And for the width of that, I'm gonna set that to be 100%, and I'm also gonna specify a background color of that to be this kind of green color right here. Okay, so you can see that now this before element is disappearing on top of that text, and what we want is that this shouldn't be like this. Whenever we are hovering, this should show up. Okay, so again, the previous trick we used, I'm gonna set as translate x and shift it to -100% on the x-axis. Okay, and again we need to specify this transition for the transform, and it's gonna be 500 milliseconds in and out. So whenever we are hovering on that, you're gonna get the before, and then I'm gonna say transform and then translate x this to 0. There we go, save it, and now if I hover on that, you can see it slowly start to appear on top of that. But now the next step is that we need to actually show up the text in here, and it's gonna have a kind of white background color with some border there. Okay, so for that I'm gonna get the hover effect number 5, and within that we added this span earlier. If you remember, there it is, this span, which is kind of wrapper for this text right here. So first of all, I'm gonna display this as inline block. Okay, so then also need to position this as relative as well, and then I'm gonna specify a padding for this. Let's say for now it's 15 pixels. I'm gonna set a margin of 2 pixels for that, and set a background color of kind of white color, the one that the body has this white color. So if I hover on that, there we go. So you can see that it is now kind of achieved. And if you're wondering what has just happened, so basically we just get this span positioned as relative, display inline block, so these two lines could get executed. And if I just go back into there, you can see this space right here is 14 pixels, 14, 14, and similarly 14 pixels of padding, and the rest of that, which is like this 2 pixels right here, so that 2 pixel is a kind of space. Okay, so it is keeping its space, but we also added this one, this background color before, so it's kind of appearing like as it's a border, but indeed it's not a border, it's just a box showing up behind that, and it's just showing up on top of it like this. Okay, so now we also need to display this one, come on, display this one as inline block 2, and set the overflow of that to hidden. There we go. All right, so still you can see there's a line right here, and as I said earlier, you can just specify this one to go like a -103%, something any further than that is gonna work. Okay, so there we go. And now from what we know, we saw in the demo right here that the text is also changing along with that, and basically the way we can change the text is identical to the one that we created right here. So I'm just gonna repeat the whole process right here back again, and it's going to be the hover effect number 5. We're going to get the after of that. It's going to have a content again from the attributes. We're going to get that data hover from there, and I'm going to position this as absolute, and then set its color to be this kind of color right here. So save it, and then we're going to specify a width for that 100% and a height of 100%. Okay, from the top set that to 0, and from the left set that to 0 as well. So there we go. You can see that now this text right here is showing up, but we need to somehow position this so it appears on top of this black text right there. So from what you can see right here, this span, indeed this text which is wrapped by this span, it's got a padding of 14 pixels, a margin of 2 pixels. Okay, so total of these two is 16 pixels, and if I just go right here and set a margin of 16 pixels, so you will see that it's just showing up on top of it. There we go. And then what we need to do, so you know it better now, that if I just go back right here, set switch to 0%, and you can see the text is kind of wrapped and is overflowing. Okay, so the same trick, I'm just gonna copy these 2 lines of code, and then I'm gonna just duplicate it down below, or just paste it down below right here. And then whenever we are hovering on that, so down below, hover effect number 5, whenever we hover, I'm going to get the after and specify a width of that to be 100%. All right, so now if I hover on that, why is that appearing so fast? Let's specify a transition for this to be for the width. Okay, what I have done, let's just undo everything. Okay, I'm going to set the transition for the width to be like 500 milliseconds is in and out. Okay, the transition timing function. And okay, so yeah, indeed this transition has to be for this. Okay, cool, there we go. So we just created it successfully, and actually that kind of visually doesn't seems like we have that effect because it's so fast. Okay, so this is visually appealing Alright, so we created is horizontal version, and now we just need to make this vertical. Okay, so for that to achieve, I'm just gonna again duplicate this down below. So basically both of these are going to be identical back again, so I'm going to just change this 5 to 6 back again like this one. Alright, and then if I just hover on that, let's just check. Okay, yeah, I need to first of all just copy or need to duplicate this down below right here, and then I'm going to change this 5 to 6 and then -5 to -6, so it gets applied to hover effect number 6. There we go, -6, there we go, and yeah, it's showing up. Now we just need to change its direction. Okay, so earlier it was a negative on the x-axis. Basically we're going to keep that negative, but it's going to be now for the y-axis. I'm going to change this to y, and now notice that this should be vertical. There we go, but you can see the way the text is showing up is horizontal, and the way you can achieve that to make it vertical is going right here. Let's see, so the width is 100% and the height is 0%, and down below right here we're going to change this to be height of 100%. And now if I hover on that, yeah, this has to be again for the height and not width, and there we go. So we created this successfully for the number 5 and number 6. Alright, so that's looking cool. And now let's work on this hover effect right here, which is basically this hover effect number 7. Alright, so you can see that hover effect number 7 and hover effect number 1, they are basically identical to each other. The only difference is that in hover effect number 7, we got this border, this showing up from the top as well. Alright, so in here, I'm just going to go back and then just copy that out and paste it right here. And then I'm going to change this to be hover effect number 7, and then also change that to hover effect number 7 as well. And then I'm just going to go all the way up until here, and then just copy everything we got for the hover effect number 1 and duplicate it down below, just paste it, and then let's change this to 7. And similarly, we're going to change all of these to -7 as well. Alright, and this should be like a -105%. So there we go. And now if I hover on that, you can see that this line is appearing right from the bottom all the way to the right side. And let's just duplicate this one down below right here, and this is going to be for the after one, but instead of bottom, this one is for the top right here, and instead of left it is right. There we go. So now if I just hover on that, indeed, first of all, let's just check that out if we have it right here. Oops, indeed, I'm gonna just duplicate this down below right here, and then add a comma. This is gonna be for the after, like so. And then if I hover on that, there we go. So basically both of these are showing up from the left to the right side, and if I just get rid of this negative value from there, it just should show up from the opposite direction, like so. Alright, so we created the hover effect number 7 too, and now it's time for hover effect number 8. Alright, so I'm gonna go back in here, and then for the hover effect number 8, the syntax of that is gonna be a little bit different too. So I'm gonna create that hover effect number 8, and then it's not gonna go anywhere, did link span, and down below right here I'm gonna call this hover effect number 8. Alright, so for that to do, the hover effect number 8 is gonna be identical to this hover effect number 7, except that it has got these borders from the left and right side too is appearing. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is that just duplicate this line down below right here, and then change the name of this from 7 to 8. Again, you may notice a lot of redundant code. The codes are getting repeated, but for sake of this tutorial, to keep it simple for me as well to explain everything, I'm just gonna do it this way. Alright, so you can make it dry yourself. So instead of -7, I'm gonna make it -8, like so. And now if I hover on that, see this hover effect number 8, and this is the hover effect -8 here. Alright, yeah, I forgot to actually change this to -8 as well. So Now it should work. You hover on that, there we go. And now we just need to add a little bit of the padding on the left and right side as well. Let's set that to 0.75 rem in this case. And now you can see there's a little bit of the padding on the left and the right side there. Okay, so for the hover effect number 8, I'm gonna get the span and then the before. Okay, and here for the content of that, I'm gonna set that to be just nothing for now, and then position this as absolute. Okay, so the before, this is gonna go from the top, set that to be 0, and from the left set this to indeed this is gonna be from the bottom. Okay, and from the left set this to 0. Let's see, what else do we need? Need to specify its height to be 100%. Okay, so this before, if you're wondering what I'm doing right here, basically this is going to create that line disappearing at the left side right here. Okay, so that's why I specified the bottom to be 0, because this is going to animate from bottom to the top. Okay, and it's positioned in the left side as well. It has got a height of 100%, but the width of that is going to be only 2 pixels. And then I'm going to also change this background color to be again the very same dark color we used earlier. There we go. So you can see that that border is showing up right here, and I can just duplicate this down below right here, and this is going to be for the after one, but this time instead of bottom it is top, and also instead of left it is right, like so. Okay, so there we go. This is looking kind of cool. Let me indeed do one more thing right here. I'm gonna actually comment all these out so I can just work on hover effect number 8 for now. All right, so and this is it. And then now we need to actually specify its height to be like 0%, and similarly this one to be 0% as well. But then down below right here, I'm gonna say that the hover effect number 8, so whenever we are hovering on that, I'm gonna get this span, the before, and similarly gotta duplicate this down below right here. And then for the after, I'm also gonna specify its height to be 100%. There we go. So now if I hover on that, well, I can see, I think that's the problem of the transition, in fact. So I'm gonna specify that for the height, and 500 millisecond is in and out. There we go. So now if I hover on that, there it is. All right, so we created the hover effect number 8 too, and now it's time for this hover effect right here. It's the hover effect number 9. All right, so go back in here and the index.html. I'm just gonna basically duplicate this down below right here, but instead of 8, it's gonna be 9, like so, and then change this to be 9 as well. All right, so then style the CSS, because the hover effect number 8 and 9, they both have border to the top and bottom, left and right side. So what I'm gonna do right now is basically there are a bunch of ways of creating this. I'm just thinking right now which approach to choose. All right, so what I can do is just duplicate this one down below right here, in fact. So let's see, you can do this with the border of itself as well. I think that's possible too. Okay, so this is for the hover effect -9, and then I'm gonna change all these -8 to -9 as well. Okay, there we go. So just change it to -9, and now basically those stylings for the 8 should be applied for 9 as well. But there is one more difference right now, that basically for now it's gonna have a little bit of the transition delay here. Okay, so this line, if I hover on that, this line should go first, then followed by that this line, and then this line, then the right line right here, and then it should reverse when mouse is out of there. Okay, so I'm gonna start from this one right here. It was the span before. So basically, and this is from the bottom, I'm gonna change this to top 0, left is 0, and then the height is 0 too, and then there it is. Okay, so whenever the mouse is moving away from here, I want to set this transition delay to be like 0 second. This is gonna show up instantly when the mouse is out of there. Okay, so this is gonna fade out instantly indeed. Okay, so then the span after content is nothing, and then state of top, this is gonna be bottom because its direction is as such, it's gonna go from the bottom to the top. Okay, and then height is 0%. Yes, that's true. And the transition delay of this one, transition dash delay. Okay, just remember that transition delay that we are specifying in here, this is going to be for the mouse out and not on mouse hover. Okay, so this is 0 millisecond, 500 millisecond, and this is like 1000 millisecond, which is essentially 1 second. Okay, and then we got the hover effect before. So let's just do a quick check right here, and then yeah, so this is gonna have a transition dash delay of 1.5 second. All right, and then for the before one right here, I'm gonna go down here and specify transition delay to be 0.5 second. Okay, so this after one, which is specified right here, this is gonna be the top border. Okay, right there. All right, and then down below right here, we just need to now do it this way. Okay, so let's just duplicate it down below. I'm gonna move it to here. Come on, there we go. So whenever we are hovering on that, the after one, this should have a transition delay of this is 500 millisecond, and this should be 1 second. There we go. And then for the before, this is gonna have a transition delay of 0 second. And then for the span before, basically need to duplicate this down below once again, put it into there, and this one is gonna have a transition delay of it's the before and it's the after. Okay, so this is the very last one, so 1500 milliseconds. And then for the span after, this one is gonna have a transition delay of I believe 500 milliseconds. Let's check that out. I hope I didn't screw up anything. There we go. Okay, great. I just realized that this line right here, which is the span before, it's just going up very fast. So here I need to specify transition, so that's for the height, and then 500 millisecond, and that's is in and out. All right, so let's just hover back on that. There we go. Move your mouse out of there, and that's it. So basically we achieved this hover effect number 9 using transition delay. You can see that right here, let's for instance take this one here. Okay, so we specified this transition delay for the hover effect number 9 for its before pseudo element 2 times, once right here and then once somewhere right here. So what is the difference between both of these? Here we specified this transition delay to be 0 second, and then right here we specified this transition delay to be 1.5 second. This 0 second was specified right here with this hover right in this place. This is whenever you're moving your mouse on that link right here. You can see it's got a 0 delay. Okay, and then whenever you are moving your mouse out of that link, it's gonna decrease after 1500 milliseconds. All right, so I hope that's making sense. And then the very last one, let's just see what else has remained. There we go. So this is the hover effect number 10. That should be basically identical to this one right here, the hover effect number 3. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is just copy this out of there, and then just duplicate this down below, and then just change its name to be hover effect -10. Okay, so for the style.css, I'm just gonna go all the way up until here. I just need to copy all these out from here and then go to there and paste it. There we go. Instead of hover effect 3, I'm gonna change that to hover effect 10 right here. So there we go, and then dash 10. Yeah. All right, and then I just need to duplicate this down below. This is going to be for the after this time. Instead of bottom, it is from the top. And let's see, I'm going to go down here and indeed duplicate this down below right here, add a comma, and then this is going to be for the after. There we go, save it. And yeah, that is it. So we achieved the hover effect number 10 as well. All right, and then I'm going to go back into index.html and I'm going to just uncomment all these out of there. So there we go. This is kind of looking cool. Alright, so that's it for this video everyone. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the bell notification for more such videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.